Hello, my name is Garrett Monroe, and this is an overview of the strategic plan that I came up with for Griner Middle School. Griner Middle School has been educating students in Dallas ISD for the past over 50 years. It's one of the largest middle schools in the state of Texas and serves a student population of over 1,700 students. There's more than 100 faculty and staff on campus, but for the purpose of this strategic plan, we looked at stakeholders just in the social studies department, as well as the instructional coaches and our head principal, Ms. Rojas. Because of the size of Griner, there's obviously a lot of tech deficiencies. And for this reason, the plan we came up with was to utilize the existing technology to increase achievement as soon as possible. The technology vision that we have for Griner is to have students and teachers performing and achieving higher scores on their exams and retaining information for the long term. And we had to come up with a vision statement. And part of our vision statement, we had to ask some specific questions. The questions we asked were, what are the specific technology needs on campus? How can we use technology to increase achievement? What technology exists on campus that we can use now? How do you track your data now? And how does your data from formative assessments inform your instruction? From those questions, we were able to come up with this vision statement. The technology vision for Griner Middle School is to have students and teachers performing and achieving higher scores on exams and retaining information long term. This will be accomplished through consistent and collaborative data tracking using data forms digitally. This makes the data from formative assessments, as well as summative assessments, more actionable for teachers and students. Using this approach will increase student achievement and better prepare students for high school and college. So, after we came up with our technology vision, we really had to evaluate what technology we have on campus. And part of this, again, was to ask some specific questions. The evaluation that we had determined that technology instructors needed to increase data tracking were mostly internet-based. The questions we asked were, what technology do you need in your classroom? What technology do you use most often? How often do you use the internet? What barriers do you see in data tracking using technology? What things do you need to better track your own data? What is one thing that you can think of that would make data tracking easiest for you? And how are you tracking your student data now? Those questions were all asked as a part of our technology evaluation. And the way we gathered the information and asked these questions was through various Google surveys, a SWOT analysis, and some interviews. The process of this took place over the course of a week, and the data that we gathered basically told us that, for the most part, teachers just feel overwhelmed, and that their data tracking takes a backseat to planning and other district requirements such as professional developments. But teachers did respond positively to the idea of having tools created for them to track data that would decrease the amount of time that they needed to get started. Teachers, for the most part, responded that they have sufficient access to technology. However, a few teachers did rank their proficiency as not very high. But most teachers, with the exception of Mr. Moreno, all have a smartphone, a laptop, and a tablet. And every teacher does have a set of desktops in their classroom. The number one thing that teachers responded with was that they just need more time. Now, after our evaluation, we determined that we would have Google Docs tutorials, less physical paperwork, and fewer face-to-face meetings. And when we did have face-to-face meetings, we would make them as short as possible. So beyond that, we needed to come up with our technology needs assessment. Now, our technology needs assessment, again, asks some specific questions to identify the specific gap between the ability to track data and the desire to track data. And the questions we asked were, what technology do you use most often? What is one thing that you can think of that would make data tracking easiest for you? What things do you need to better track your own data? And how do you track your formative assessment data now? The needs assessment we came up with essentially In the past, data tracking had been pushed on teachers, and so we determined that increased data tracking beyond summative assessments could increase achievement. And the way that we would do this would be with templates that were laminated and guides that would be created and passed out at the beginning of the project. Our action plan came together, and our plan was created to increase staff use of data from formative assessments to better inform instructions throughout the year. So we were looking at how we had used data tracking on summatives and decided if we could apply this to formatives, it would help our overall goal. And again, this plan was completely focused on closing the achievement gap and increasing mastery of concepts by using the least amount of money possible. The timeline for our action plan came down to we're going to test run this plan in the spring semester with the social studies department. And whenever it's successful, because it will be, we will then review the data in June, and we will present it to Ms. Rojas at the end of June, and then we will implement it across the entire campus in the 2018-2019 year. At the completion of the 2018-2019 year, once we have successfully reviewed the data, we will then compile data and compare assessment scores and head on to 2019 and 2020 to look at how we can improve even more. The way we're going to know that we're doing this the right way is we came up with, as a part of our strategic planning process, a technology evaluation plan. And the technology evaluation plan, we created it in order to really track and monitor how effective we were being. And this will determine the success of our plan. Now, in order to do this, what we have to look at, again, are some specific questions that we'll be asking in the future, which are, what type of support do you still need? What results have you already seen? What technology assistance do you still need? When are you available to come to tutorials? And what would you like covered in this month's professional development? As a part of our action plan and our evaluation plan, we came up with an idea to have a monthly professional development for novice level users and master level users that will be 15 minutes. And based on surveys and based on interviews, we will be determining the scope and the topic for each one of our monthly 15-minute tutorials. The time frame of these surveys, the first survey will be sent out in the February of this spring semester, following our first common assessment. The first interviews, which we're calling town halls, will be conducted at the 1st of March in the second 6 weeks. And the second survey will be sent out in March with a town hall to follow. The third survey will be sent out in May. And again, that's another town hall situation. So these are the ways that we're going to make sure that we are keeping in line with what our action plan had really come up with. Now, that's all I really have. And so I hope that this really covers the evaluation, the action plan, the tech needs assessment, our technology evaluation, and our technology vision. It was really exciting, and I can't wait to get started on where we're going.